Yes, K-Dog.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm tired. I'm tired. Can we be cliche for a moment?
Sure.
I know this is so cliche to talk about how tired you are the day after a time change.
Mm-hmm.
But like I've got to know why. I've got to know why we still do this shit. The whole daylight savings time and turning the clock ahead. And to be fair, I did just about everything I could this weekend to sabotage any preparation I could have made for losing this hour, and I didn't.
Yeah, it's a time change fault, not a series of your own choices.
I stayed up late and hurt myself Friday night and had a hangover all day Saturday, and then watched a movie late Saturday night, which ruined Sunday.
It's a time change, though.
But listen,
a total time change.
But the time change does not help, and I want to know why we do this. And I don't even know. Do you know? Does anybody know why we still do this?
This is like Groundhog Day of topics.
That's why I said it's cliche, but
yeah,
I gotta know.
Let's try to make sense. Like, what good could it or would it do? Okay, so the things that we would be responding to would be the daylight, the actual daylight, right?
Yeah.
And so the period of time that you would use electricity or fill your oil lamps or whatever, if we can line up the active part of the day so that it's most in the daylight, we would save on energy costs. That could be one thing that daylight savings would do. Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else?
I feel like we used to hear rumors that it had something to do with farmers. Is that just their working hours or?
I don't know. I think people are a little smarter. And so when I travel out across time zones to the West Coast, I stay on Ohio time. Why? Because when you disturb your sleep, it F's everything up beyond that, everything. Yeah. So we depend on that rhythm for our health and, for our energy and immune system and all that kind of stuff. And so I think when that gets jacked up, which they do twice a year, lots of people die because of it.
Yeah, it's like the highest day of the year for heart attacks and things like that, which
everybody's messed up, not because of their drinking or their sabotage that they pulled over the weekend, but it's because if you just say
lost an hour.
Yeah. And so Saturday, I went to bed an hour earlier, like Friday going into Saturday. And then I woke up at 3:30 knowing that it was really 4:30. And then I woke up at 5 on Sunday, right? And then this morning was just a regular day. So it took me 2 complete cycles to be able to get into it because I
had planned to do that.
Oh, of course you did.
I did.
Like most people. But yes, I think it should go away. I mean, I don't think there's very much, very good reason for it. I can see there might be some industries that benefit from their workday, whatever, but you can just as easy as slide your workday.
That was going to be my question. Why can't you just say, hey guys, by the way, we've noticed it's staying light a little later now.
Come in earlier, go home a little bit earlier.
Come in at this time and go home at this time.
It would be so much easier.
Yeah.
But they have, through legislation, passed to kill this thing multiple times. And yet it still is like the zombie.
Yeah.
Because it will be disruptive to institutions.
More than just saying, hey guys, now come in at this time until this time.
Maybe more, like all of your clocks automatically update. So now you change that and everybody will have to rewrite software that took the adjustment into consideration, the technology where it already had time changes happen and it automated. Now you have to back that off and say the time will be the same. So there's work to be done. There's some cost and expense to do it. It's almost like it'd be cheaper and easier to keep it if it's not that big of a deal to anyone. We all hate it. Nobody's ever said, thank God for this time change thing.
Yeah. The only time it's ever like I like it is the first night when we fall back, when you're like, I get to sleep in an hour. Other than that, it sucks all the way around.
Okay. So let's just say that nobody told you it was daylight savings time and all of the clocks and all of the world adjust. Would you even know that it happened at all? Or how could you prove that it actually took place?
Probably not. I mean, the only thing I would notice is I would start to notice that it is lighter out.
Well, it does that anyway.
But yeah.
When it gets into spring, you get longer daylight hours anyway. So
Yeah.
it would just be it could be a natural phenomenon. You wouldn't know. Maybe if we just stop effing making a big deal about it and just let it happen automatically, there are very few people that would actually know. Like I must have ate something bad yesterday. I'm a little bit tired today. I bet you nobody would notice. It's contagion. It's contagion. When you make the suggestion that there are a lot of blue cars out there, right? Blue cars you shall see. So if you're like, oh, we're losing an hour, can't you wait to lose that hour? Then your body's like, oh, I'm going to be tired on that next day. And what do you know? You're tired on that next day because you populated.
I actually feel worse today than yesterday.
Oh, of course. Your liver got the rest of the alcohol toxins out of your body and the terrible food and the lethargic behavior. Of course, you feel a little bit worse. Your body is dealing with the poisons you gave it.
I'm never drinking again. Why do we?
There's another one of those good ones.
Here's another question. Why do we even do that? Why do we even do that? And it's probably not even so much the amount I drank, although that was certainly it. It was a mixed drink. It was a sugary, juicy, just the worst thing you can put in your body as far as alcoholic drink goes.
And you did it.
Oh, I didn't mean to. We're playing cards. I wish I had a more fun story. Everyone's like, oh, do you have a fun Friday night? No, nope. Went to the neighbors and played cards. Wasn't paying attention. Talking, more, talking. Not staying late. I can't stay late. It's late.
When you're rational, is your brain suggesting that the whole thing is freaking silly as could be? You concoct it. Like if I said, you know what? I was feeling a little bit down, so I drank some gasoline yesterday, and it didn't go real well. Like I didn't feel it. My breath stank like that gasoline, and I was a little bit sick after it. But man, I felt like I was pepped up because I did it. I was able to talk with other gasoline drinkers, and then the reasonable, like, is it possible to do those things without drinking the gasoline? Are there other options on the table other than that? That's what the rational brain should tell you.
Because I literally said that to myself afterwards. I was like, I sacrificed an entire Saturday where I just felt like total shit so that I could have a few minutes of a funny feeling. It was like a few minutes of laughing and buzzed and joking and silly, and this is fun. And then it was just nothing but downhill after that.
Yeah.
For what? For what? It was the dumbest thing.
This is the regret portion, the guilt and regret that visits you, that makes you say, I'm never doing that again. But the goldfish brain on Friday will be like, oh, it's Friday. Let me drink sugar poison again. And let's repeat that whole deal.
I don't ever want sugar poison again.
I will set a stopwatch for how long it takes you to think sugar poison is a good idea. Just like if I want to pop out of bed, I slam my finger in a door or something like that. Because that'll wake me up, right?
And then recovering after the Friday dumb decision, I tell myself, all right, well, I'm really tired. I didn't sleep well, obviously, last night. I've been tired all day. I'm going to go to bed extra early tonight, especially because of the time change. And I just feel like crap. And what did I do? I stayed up late to watch a movie that I've seen like 15 times.
Yep.
It's not even a movie I've been waiting to see. It's, oh, I love this movie. I know that because I've seen it so many times.
Well, you are just describing an example of what human nature does. So an idle human being is destructive and makes bad choices. So what we need to do as an authoritarian to tell people what to do and keep them so that they're barely making any decisions on their own. And that way they'll keep them safe and healthy. We just need a nanny that's smarter, which is pretty much everybody than the human population, and just tell them what they should and shouldn't do. And when they come up with these ideas, the AI can shoot them down and saying, you don't need it. It's not going to be good for it. And you're going to pay consequences. So don't do that thing. And they're like, okay, I guess I'll behave. And then everybody will be better off for it. They won't like being told what to do, but we can't let people fall to their own vices and their own bad decisions.
Oh yeah, it was awful. And then my poor husband was trying to be nice because when I woke up Saturday and I just felt awful, I was like, I don't believe I did this. I don't believe I did. I knew when I picked out the drink, I said, this is probably the worst thing I should be drinking right now. This is going to make me feel terrible. But I went, oh, it's only one. It's only one. You'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Half a bottle later was not fine. But I said, I cannot believe I did this. And he's like, look, we got nothing going on today. You got all day to rest. We literally don't have a thing to do. When do you ever get to just veg out and chill on the couch, take a day and do that? And I'm like, but I don't want to do that while feeling like this. How about veg out on a day and chill and feel good? Not like, oh God, now I feel awful all day and it's depressing. It's so depressing. Ugh.
Pissing it away. Pissing it away.
And now I'm so tired this morning and I have coffee and that made me feel like crap. So now I'm like, well, I can't even have more coffee because now the coffee and the caffeine's making me feel like crap. And I'm in this cycle where I'm just like, ugh.
You finished?
Yeah.
Okay. What else we need to talk about? Because this isn't irritating me enough. I need something to really grind on me.
I mean, do you want to go politics or do you want to steer from? So last week, I went ahead and pulled up the 49-minute version of the whole Oval Office scene of Zelensky, Trump, JD Vance. You know, the video went viral where Trump supposedly was so mean and berated Zelensky, and they got into this big heated discussion. And I've only until now seen just a couple of minutes. So basically when JD Vance started talking, and then that was it. Did you happen to see the before that?
I did.
What a different picture that paints. I was like, this was actually quite cordial before that scene. And then one of the things that gets me because it's so stupid is people online fighting about the why didn't Zelensky wear a suit remark. And the people I've been seeing made it sound like Trump had a problem or Vance had a problem. And somebody's like, why don't you wear a suit? And everyone's like, Elon Musk doesn't wear a suit. And when I watched it, I'm like, that's not even Trump who said that. It was a stupid news reporter made a snarky comment, probably trying to suck up to Trump who did it. And Trump's even like, I think he looks very nice. I happen to like his outfit today. But that's what they want to fight about. The dumbest shit I keep seeing on Facebook and online that people fight about.
And I told you, like, these are the ambush predators that have a thing in their head. And when the thing comes up, they want to say that thing so bad, they'll say it even if it's not true. So they want to take shot. So if you have someone that doesn't like you, okay, and they won't do anything about it because you could beat their ass, right? What they do is they sit and they wait for you to stumble into the ambush, and they're going to get you. They can't wait to point out when you stumble. They can't wait to throw shots at you to, deflate you. So those are those people. You have a bunch of really sore losers that want him to fail so bad that they will not only Trump does a bunch of stupid shit anyway, right? You do not have to populate with stuff that didn't happen. You could just wait till he does the thing and then just be critical on the thing. But they invent, because they want to say the thing so bad, they invent the story. They know that people are going to buy into it, and it's going to circulate. Go poll the regular person out there. And even if things have been long debunked, they're going to insist that those things are true, because that is why they do it. They put those stories because the major won't watch the 49-minute video like you did. They'll just be like, oh, he's a dictator, and just the same shit that you hear.
He's just rude and mean. And here's another thing that I've noticed the more that I look into it, and the more I watch longer versions of things, because I also used to say a lot like, well, Trump, the media has so much to work with Trump. He says outlandish things, ridiculous things, arrogant things. So he's an easy target for them for sure. But the more I watch the extended versions of videos that you see online, the more I realize, do you think Trump jokes a lot?
A lot.
He very much has this sense of humor that's a bit sarcastic.
Yes, he does.
And one side chooses to ignore that and take it as arrogance.
Yes.
And yeah, like it's so ridiculous. I saw someone over the weekend. I saw an old boss of mine, and I was talking to one of their employees, and I said, "Oh yeah, I used to work here many, many years ago." And I was saying, "God, this was like 20 years ago," which I know is hard to believe because I haven't aged a day. Like, seriously, like, can you believe that I'm like 20 years older than when I worked here? I know. And as I'm joking like this, I was like, this is what Trump does. That's Trump's humor, is he will say something to be sarcastic and funny and ridiculous. And so, what a jerk. Someone would be like, look at Kelin, so full of herself, thinking she looks amazing. What a joke. And it's like, oh my God, you guys won't even acknowledge that he's joking. And he's so clearly joking. And in that 49-minute video, he said something, and I can't remember what it was, but he even said, he's like, I hope we all know I'm only joking. That was a joke, but the left-wing media is going to take it and say that I said this and I said that. And funny how that was, in fact,
exactly
cut out.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Musk, I think, is funny and people don't see it. I think even Vance sometimes will crack jokes. And instead of seeing the context in which something was said, they will edit it to just make them look like an arrogant jerk. Yeah. No surprise, but I encourage people to go watch the whole thing.
No, I don't. I think the thicker that they are in their bubble and the more untrue things they believe, the more they'll be revealed as idiots. You have to almost let the pressure of seeking information intelligence be the determining factor whether you want to dig in or not. Like, if you're an idiot, just be an idiot and be proud. Like, really go into the world not knowing anything, bounce off of shit, and let the rest of us see you and just be able to pick you out. Because I don't want those people to be in charge of important things. I really don't want them pulling levers that I have a dependency on. So the easier it is to pick out the idiots there, the better off that society will be. And then you won't feel bad for them in the future. So let's just say we'll use your husband. And sorry.
Don't be sorry.
So let's just say you guys buy something that needs assembled, right? And then you're like, you better read the instructions. And he's like, I don't need to read the instructions, right?
Yeah.
You want not reading the instructions to be a teaching moment, right? So if he does it without reading the instructions, and we're like, oh, you came to some good, reasonable conclusions with a lack of information. You can handle taking a piece and being just curious enough and using reason and logic enough to build the furniture. You can handle not reading the instructions. But if you put it together and you got extra parts and it's not stable and whatever, now you're like, this is, now I want you to eat on this thing or watch TV on this thing or whatever it is. And I want you to feel what a lack of information really is. And I want you to be dependent on your lack of information. And so that's how we get through this is tough love. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I don't want people just to be comfortable enough that they can be morons. Right. And shielded from the repercussions from being morons. I want them to go full bore at it.
Yeah. And I got into not even a conversation. It was pretty quick interaction on Facebook with a friend of mine who's, again, very anti-Trump, doesn't like the guy, doesn't like things happening right now, but luckily is the type of person that can have a respectful conversation. And was posted something about cutting funding for cancer patients, medical funding. And I said, hey, I'm trying to look further into this. Do you have any sources or anything that you see that you could send to me that I can read up on this? And sent me something. It was some oncology something.com. And I read it and I responded and I said, okay, do you see how this whole article says this could be the case? Something might happen if. The effects are still unknown, but it's possible that if this happens, this may be an instance. So to me, nothing has been cut. Am I missing something here? And his response was simply, well, if he gets his way, it will be cut. He's just not going through the proper procedure to do it. And I was just like, okay.
Here's your counter, because this is a cool, like, you like the inconsistencies, like checkmating somebody in their inconsistencies. So those people who will take, like, I'm not opposed to people taking logical jumps of possibility. That's fair, right? But you have to be consistent in what you say is sacred and cannot be challenged, and things that I'm going to challenge it in spite of zero evidence. So if somebody's like, he could cut cancer research, and then you say, well, could elections be fraudulent? Right. Mm-hmm. And if they apply similar logic, it's an institution or an action that has the same potential to be fraudulent as cancer. When you cut funding for an agency that handles cancer, that kind of funding potentially could go into cancer research. So as long as if I'm talking to someone who can say, yeah, we might be wrong on vaccines. Yeah, we might be wrong on environmentalism. Yeah, we might be wrong on voter fraud. But if they're like, no, without evidence, elections are perfect. And without evidence, vaccines are the way to go. But if you, on this one, it's like, it hasn't even happened, but it could. Now it's an inconsistency. That's an easiest way to checkmate those douchebags.
Yeah. And I told the guy, I was like, well, thank you, by the way, for sharing your information and having an adult conversation and not just being like, well, you're stupid if you don't know what he's trying to do. Okay. I guess that's our whole conversation then.
So that over the weekend, they started removing the Black Lives Matter Plaza graffiti where they painted Black Lives Matter on the roadway. I believe it was in Washington, D.C. Oh. So they're starting now to take down all of those, how they're paying homage to whatever happened during that terrible freaking year. So what are your thoughts on removing that, blight on the city of having that painted on the street?
I mean, I do like that. I think I'm now picturing what you're talking about. Was it like across the road or something?
The whole roadway was big, font, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. I mean, I like it.
I like that. For what reason?
I don't know. I guess I don't super care either way for things like that. If it's gone, great. My thing is the changing of things. What is that going to do? Like I saw a meme recently. It was like, "Ooh, good thing we affected so much change when we outlawed a syrup, or when we changed Uncle Ben's whatever, like all the different grocery products that had to be changed. Did that do anything? Changing the names of military installations. I was down south when Fort Benning became Fort Moore, and I heard a lot about a lot of money went into doing that. And now I think they're talking about changing it back, or at least some of the bases. And I'm just like, oh, how much money is going into all these changes, and does it actually affect anything? So I don't know. I have mixed feelings. I would like for that to go away. I think the whole BLM thing was very divisive. I think it was a bit corrupt. I think it's agenda pushing. To not have that is probably a good thing. Will it matter? I don't know.
I mean, it's the question of what are roadways for and how should they be used? And it's easy to support something that you can halfway identify with. But what if we did the Trump is awesome roadway where same yellow, big font letters, right? Are there gonna be people that say, okay, well, if you got a group of people that totally support Trump and use taxpayer money to paint Trump is awesome on the roadway, there's going to be some people when they walk up to that doesn't have the effect that you think it does. It's not a universally accepted message. Yeah. So should the institution of government should be used for activist behaviors in any direction. And if you have one, you got to adopt the other. So let's just say the rainbow flags across the road. We painted entire roads of rainbow flags. Cool. That's awesome.
Did we?
A bunch of them. Of roadways were big rainbow flags. So cool. Now the next activist group that comes through there can basically identify that road with whatever they feel. They don't really care, right? How you feel about it. If I'm like Irish people are great, right? I can do the Irish road, or the Cleveland Browns are freaking awesome and put the Browns colors. Like, you can see how this gets silly to the level of it's a roadway. It's not a billboard. If you want to be activist, there's a billboard that you can pay every month on and get your message on something that's intended to not shuttle cars around, but to display some kind of messaging. And it's hijacking weird ways of thumbing the eye of people who don't agree with you. And you're right, changing the name of the Cleveland Browns or the Aunt Jemima syrup, it didn't do anything, right?
Yeah.
But we were in an era of whoever was most virtuous or signaled to be most virtuous was king, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't looked at as idiocy. It was looked as outnumber or outdoing one another for who could send out the most virtue signals. And it was a era of sheer stupidity.
Especially when taxpayer money goes towards whatever this thing is you're painting. Like you said, if you are paying for a billboard, that's you. That's your money. You're doing that.
Exactly.
But everybody that has to pay for that roadway or whatever else it is that you now want to push your own agenda on, regardless of what it is, are you going to be the only one paying for that?
Yeah. Government should be not advocating for anything. They should be doing their freaking job. They're not even doing that well.
No.
Let's just say when they get the stuff they're supposed to be done down pat
on that first.
Yeah. And then we can get into the expressive things where we cater to some advocacy group that we believe in and alienate just about everybody else. So yeah, I don't know if you've ever gone through Washington, D.C., but they need
a long time.
They need to basically just recreate it. It's awful. It is terrible.
Is it just like a graffiti?
No, it's the opposite.
Oh.
There is so much money being spent. Everybody there is super wealthy and they're flaunting the use of mine and your money in your face. They're not trying, like I always say, like when government builds themselves a building, they make it out of marble. And if they build you a road, they make it out of sawdust. It's the respect differential between they think that they're elite and they really play the part. And that's why I say level it by let's put regular people surrounding government, and that's reflective of who they're actually representing. Not a bunch of super wealthy people that are like thumbing your eye and showing you who's really in charge.
Yeah, it's like they've completely lost the idea that they were in a servant position.
Yes, it's not a servant position.
Yeah, not at all. Now it's like I won something. I'm above you. I'm over you. Yeah. I'm bigger than you. And I deserve all these things and power and fame and riches. And it's like not at all what a government position was intended to be. And who made it that way? Did we allow it? Did they take it by force? Maybe a little bit of both.
Now, is there what you mentioned, some of the military bases having their name shifted? Should government be in the position, honoring a history, even if there's blemishes through that history? Should we be erecting parks in people's names that some people disagree with? A General Lee statue somewhere, a George Floyd statue somewhere. Are you being served well as a citizen? Now, if it's a historical context, right, where we're paying homage, you go to a certain area and know that this was a sugar plantation, and you write the history as it happened. Then when you learn about the history, you're getting what it was, right? Mm-hmm. If there's advocacy going on, maybe part of the story, it's not great. So we're going to take part of the story and not let you learn a portion of what really happened. We're going to take what we feel about it and indoctrinate you into the history we want you to see.
Yeah, like it was controversial when they changed the name of Fort Benning down there, because you had the side that was kind of saying this is history, this is something you can't change history, you shouldn't change that, you should leave it alone. And then you had people saying, well, if you look into the history of Benning, he was a bad dude and did horrible things. When they changed it to honor Hal Moore and his wife, I think that was a good move. I think
But stupid.
Right.
Listen.
And that's where it became controversial. Everyone's like, oh, Hal Moore did good things. He lived in the area where it is. He lived there. He died there. He was all over that area. So I'm like, so that would have made sense then. But should we have changed it? I had mixed feelings.
Okay. What is a bad dude to you? Regular person, if somebody historically was a bad dude, what would they have to be guilty of? Was Genghis Khan a bad dude?
I don't know a whole lot. I know the name. I don't know a whole lot about Genghis
Thomas
Khan.
Edison, was he a bad dude? Julius Caesar, was he a bad dude? Okay. What if people who don't read literature
Hitler.
and history right,
Yeah.
are basically going to say that the people they read about, that they read their whitewashed version of who they are, basically eliminated the stuff that would make them a bad dude too, right?
Mhm.
Every book, every stinking book that I have ever read on historical figures from the Industrial Revolution all the way back into the ancient literature, they were all bad dudes. All of them. Like there was always a nugget of like, ooh, a part of his a flawed piece of his character. And I'm like, oh, he rose to greatness and overcame that and became known as something, right? In spite of having some checkered history and some blemishes on the things that they did and said. And then you go up to modern times. Do you think if you go through Congress and you look through, AI is just going to look through what you actually did, not what was written about you? Do you think there's any bad dudes in Congress? How about the White House? So pretty much everybody's a bad dude. Everyone. It's a matter of which things they did do you not like more than these ones over here, right?
Yes. I also think you could be like real bad. Like
give me an idea.
Like, would you name something after Hitler or Osama bin Laden or whatever? I feel like there are people in our history that we were like, all right, real bad dude.
So there's variables. So Genghis Khan, right? Killed millions of people, raped and pillaged everything. Would you say that he's bad enough, dude, that you don't want things named after, those warriors that decimated people? I would say he's a little bit worse than Hitler, right? How about Vlad the Impaler, right? Was he a bad dude? We shouldn't dress up like him for Halloween tradition or anything, right? We should make him famous and put him on cartoon characters on cereal boxes and stuff like that. He was a bad dude. He killed people, right? So the bad dude thing, right? We're kind of selective about which bad dudes we pick and which one we don't.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a very subjective thing when you go down through history. My trek through history was everybody was failed. Everybody did bad things in different departments. And if we look at what they did bad and only acknowledge that portion, then we miss the contributions that they actually had. I mean, you can look at Mount Rushmore, and I bet you could strike all the people off of Mount Rushmore if you pick the right person that would get angry enough about the checkered past of the people that, were in that part of history. And we are not a culture or a society that takes bad people and doesn't pay homage to them. So if we were consistent in any way, I can say, oh yeah, for sure. We don't want to pick the worst of us. Let's go pick some virtuous people. And we're like, who's on the list? Oh, Jesus. That's it.
That is it.
So everybody else, there's no statues. There's no,
face on the dollar bill, or
can't put them on there. They own slaves, or they killed somebody, or, they stole from people, or they were a drunken whatever. So they're all bad. And that's the end result. So would I put Hitler on the dollar bill? Right? Probably not. Because there are better people to acknowledge for very specific purposes. But there's also modern people that I would be like, that might have been okay, but I'm not going to put them on the currency.
So would you change something that was considered historical, like the name of a military base, if you found someone that you thought was a better choice? Maybe it wasn't, well, this person was a bad dude and we should change it. But maybe you're like, whoa, why are we not honoring this person? Look how great they were and all the things they did. And
well, why do we do it? What is the purpose of honoring people
with something?
Yeah. Well, like if you've never seen a statue of a famous general or, a person that was famous in arts and entertainment, like if you never saw that, it wasn't even a thing, would you feel like life now was a little worse because it didn't exist? And if it didn't exist, would you make it exist? Hey, there's some people historically, there's no statue there, and there probably should be a statue. No, because it's stupid. It's a waste of time and money. The people are not looking back historically to learn from what's happened before. We're not smart enough to make an acknowledgement. It's all really just dressing up and a reason.
So how do you feel about the wall in DC? The
The memorial,
Yeah.
the Veterans Memorial.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is, I can see purpose in that, because when you go there, the traditions of like, you get pummeled with the feeling of the sacrifice of people who did something, and you are so grateful and sad all at the same time that you live amongst heroes and people that are willing to make a sacrifice. Like, I couldn't see myself, besides my family, going and giving my life up for an idea. I don't trust anybody enough. I don't think there's that, there aren't many people that are worthy of me giving up my life to do it. They're just going to squander the freedom that I gave them anyhow. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I'm a cynic, but those kind of places do something to you. Like, they change you, you learn from it, you become better. So maybe the public displays, like have you done the Flight 93 crash site in Pennsylvania?
No.
It's another one. They spent a lot of money to memorialize the site of one of the hijacked planes and where it crashed. And they did timeline. And so you bring your kids there and you see how that day unfolded. And it's free of politics. It's basically what happened on that day. And your kids get to look at it and say, you lived through this kind of thing. And there's some, even the battlefields of Gettysburg and, that part of the country, that you go there to experience the people that built the country and what they were willing to do to give you. So it gives you almost an appreciation for where you live and, the martyrs before us. Right.
So that you would find to be beneficial, but like, would you do away then with like the Lincoln Memorial or military base named after someone? Or
I would put it through the same test. Like, what is it doing? Right? Is it making someone bought more into the nation as a whole and feeling good that this is the place that I love? Okay, I can justify in culture to say that's probably a good, expense. If it's polarizing and it makes people feel bad, then okay, and that's failing my first test about bringing out the better in people, because somebody was able, like, you can hijack anything. I can take something that's completely, lily white, good phraseology, and somebody comes along and says that makes me feel very uncomfortable. So it's easy to hijack and say, well, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. I don't give two shits about that thing. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, let's go ahead and kill it, right? Get rid of it and put something that does bring out the best in people.
What about things like, I know I went there and for some reason I can't remember it, but in 8th grade, we did a Washington, D.C. tour and we went to the Holocaust Museum. I don't know why. I have no memory of it. I know I went there and I don't remember any of it. But from what I'm told, there are rooms, like there's a room with shoes, there's a room with hair and all these things. And it was horrible. It's horribly sad. But would you say the point of it is to learn from that, to learn what happened? But it doesn't make you feel good. It's not something that's celebrated.
Well, not feel good, but is a good. And it is a good,
so the reminder
to the culture.
Can do good.
Yeah. So if it's universally accepted that when you see a tragedy that happened, like if you go downtown New York City and see where the buildings collapsed, there are not many people who say that we want to be reminded in the future that this was something that happened in this place. So we're going to memorialize the people that died. And it's a good gesture to the people who live there. Now you can say, well, what if I'm pro Hamas and I hate the United States, right? And that I'm offended that you want to memorialize the people that I would take aim at right now if I had the shot, right? Well, I would vote to get those people the hell out of a country, right, in 2 seconds if you want to kill more of us, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so like it's like I said, I think it didn't do a good service when we advocated stuff that wasn't a universal good. We can't decide what a universal good. Are white people good? Are black people good? Are Muslims good? Like, you're going to have a lot of people that will come down on both sides of that argument. And so we can't until we can have a universal acceptance of what good and bad equals, we do not deserve any memorializations, because it's not going to make everybody happy.
How about days? National, like Columbus Day, President's Day.
It's not special. There's a day for everything. So there's nothing special about it.
So they even lost that when they made, like today, no joke, I'm not making this up. Today's National Napping Day.
Yeah.
Because of the time change. So you think making all those little days ruined anything?
There's nothing special. It used to be special. You would call attention to it. Everybody would make a big deal, make sure you're, but right now there's so many days. Do you have room enough in your brain to know what makes this day special and why? Right? It's like a bunch of 5-year-olds saw something they liked, so they wanted to do that every day. So they invented reasons, and then the special day is now dead because every day is that day. And we're just like,
So
right?
you don't want a National Joe Danier Day?
No.
I feel like we need that.
No, we don't. We definitely don't. But let's just say we took the day off for a holiday. And while we were off on that holiday, we went and visited a place and learned all about why we didn't have to go to work. We were paying homage to the holiday. Right now, we don't even do it. That thing is on a calendar, just an excuse to do nothing. And we might even do the opposite of what that thing stands for on that day and not even realize it. We may have, totally blighted that by our actions.
Yeah. How about changing? Did we actually change Columbus Day or no?
I don't know.
I feel like some calendars will say Indigenous Peoples Day or something.
Was Columbus a bad dude?
Some people would say he was a bad dude.
Okay. Why? What makes him a bad dude?
Well, some people say, that we say, oh, Columbus discovered America, when how can you discover something? People were already there. Wasn't like you discovered it. People were living there. And then did he kill the people there? Well, that's not good either. So bad dude.
Bad dude. We celebrate Columbus because, again, historically it was not easy to be someone who went out and fared the oceans at huge peril, right? To colonialize. And that's another dirty word now, colonialize. Because we take today and we give the bad dude status as of today's culture. And we judge people based on not historical context, but if they were alive today. So if, somebody from the United States went over to Greenland and conquered them, right? That would be bad dude stuff. If you took it out of context, it means that Spain wasn't conquering and England wasn't conquering, and just about every power that there was expanding the reaches of their territory. And if there was somebody there, they weren't going to be there long. They were either enslaved or killed. So if you're going to have to share a lot of bad dude status if that is the acid test for what makes someone a bad dude. And we pick one dude out, right? Make him the fall guy for what every country did in expanding their territories. So again, I just look for a little consistency. If I tell you on the onset that we can't celebrate anybody because everybody has failed, then we take all of those names off of the markers and we take all of those names off of the calendar because we got the bad dude thing. So was George Floyd a bad dude?
Some people would think so.
We can take a little liberties then, and sometimes we give people a pass for their bad dudeship, right?
Yeah.
And we celebrate them in spite of their bad dudeship, and other people we don't do that. So we're pick and choosing on what bad dudeship is.
Yeah, it's agenda pushing. It is. It's what can I gain
if
from
the expression of government is we do not want them advocating for a political end, then the markers, again, the only exception that I would make is if there is a historical thing that makes culture and people better, and the people that come there learn the history of what's happening. They're taking a historical angle. So if I go and look at the Mona Lisa, right, I want it to teach me something about what it was, who he was, whatever. Do you think he was a bad dude? Probably. There's a lot of artwork and a lot of crazy people throughout history that had good things that they did in spite of being a bad dude. And if we apply it universally, right, all of our history is dead. So rather than picking out and saying, let's use this example to teach the best of humanity, right? We don't. It's just an end to some kind of political mean that, makes certain people look good and other people look bad, but we're pick and choosing.
I bet it's going to be increasingly harder to actually name anything after anyone, erect something in someone's honor. Like, can you imagine back in the day, anything we had, how it would have been torn apart now? Like in the day of social media and
we're just bored. We're idle people that are bored and there's no point or purpose to it. Like if I say the name Napoleon, right? And I like Napoleon, I want to learn about Napoleon. if that's my relationship with history, that I want to learn what Napoleon did because I know that he must have done some great things, I'm not seeking, I don't have any, he's dead. Like there's nothing to get out of it except for he did a bunch of stuff. He rose to greatness. He had prominence, and I want to learn everything that I can that made him a better person. If I don't like Napoleon, I'm going to be going through his biography to find out when he was a freaking moron and say, we shouldn't celebrate Napoleon. What good is killing there's one good, right? Mm-hmm. We can learn from the mistakes of others, and then we take his mistakes and we apply it to other people and we become better.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Like the whole don't let history repeat itself thing. This is something that was very awful that we went through. And so in order to avoid that again, we are learning about it, which I think is a lot. There's a lot of examples of that. But yeah, I think there's a lot of examples of things we have that were probably well-intended. They weren't meant to be a reminder of something horrific. It was a celebration of something good. Exactly. But if you deep dive into it, you're like, oh, was it really good though? Anything, I guess, could be disproven to be good.
Almost everything. There are very few things that are pure enough to pass that test.
Can you think of any?
What, that are pure?
Yeah. Like a statue, a memorial, a day, anything we have that is 100% pure.
I would say ignorance is the only, if I see a statue of a little girl, right? Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure that we're celebrating the life of a little girl. I'm not looking to see that she, poked her brother in the eye or she did something in her past and whatever. So if you don't know, then you can celebrate it a little bit. But once you know, it's harder to, squash that and still feel good about the other thing. So this girl, she's 8 years old and she was killed by a drunk driver. So we put a statue here. There'd have to be a lot of backstory to make me feel like that wasn't a nice gesture to her, celebrating her life or memorializing her life.
Yeah.
So very few. And not knowing would probably be the crux.
How about things like Easter and Christmas and things that are related to a specific religion?
It's the same thing. We've ruined the sacredness and the reason for it, because once we distanced it and made it a Hallmark holiday, rather than we did something traditional that reminded us to be better people and whatever, now it's not really a thing. So it exists.
But what if someone comes in and they're like, well, that's not my religion. I find what they did offensive. Wipe
it from the calendar. Like once it's meaningless, once it doesn't have a reason or purpose, then the people who do that purpose can go celebrate it on their own time. So if, we'll use George Floyd. Putting George Floyd in an area where maybe 50% of the people think he was a great person and we need to remember it, and 50% that feel bad about it and don't really think he should be celebrated. So take the George Floyd statue and put it in a place where it could be admired and valued by almost all of the people. You want to take a road that has Black Lives Matters across it. Don't put it in Washington, D.C., where all people could have to see it and drive over it and be reminded of it. Put it in a place where everybody universally use your money and pay homage the way that you see fit. As soon as there isn't 100% agreement on what is, right, the disagreement is going to make, well, we can't put it in a public setting because it's not universally supported. And we can't. We're not agreeing on things.
Yeah, because I was even going to say, well, what if you take a certain town and they vote on if they want their street painted or not? I can't imagine anywhere that's going to vote unanimously for anything. So then you just can't.
So if I go around my neighborhood and I ask everybody in the neighborhood, hey, do you mind if I paint Trump is awesome on my street? And everybody says yes. And I take my paint bucket and I paint Trump is awesome, right? And now I had universal agreement that everybody supports it being there. If I have 5 people in my neighborhood that don't like Trump at all, I'm going to say, I'm going to pick something else. I'm not going to make them drive by the Trump is awesome thing on the street every day when they absolutely oppose it. Like institutions, if you had a university that named a wing after someone, right? Well, that's not good for brand. If you pick something that a lot of people are going to be like, they support XYZ, I'm not going to that university. And so they have to pick things that are adopted. And the first rule is we can't agree on anything. So don't do anything. Make it like the secularism of religion, ripped out of culture, rip the rest of it out. As soon as it doesn't have a purpose, get effing rid of it. It doesn't mean anything anymore, and it doesn't do anything.
How do you feel about HOAs in neighborhoods, like homeowners associations, and being allowed to do things or not do things based on the community you live? Do you like stuff like that? Or do you like, hey, it's my property, I pay this, I should be able to do this? Or do you think people around you should have a say in what you do?
If it has machinery that makes your property more valuable and provides services that keep you in a certain thing, then that's a service, right? Not every neighborhood should have an HOA, right? It should be governed by the willing kind of a thing. And if you're like, well, yeah, I don't want my neighbor having junk cars in the front yard and having unkempt grass and whatever. So you have somebody who will, execute and issue citations and whatever to keep your neighborhood looking great, right?
Yeah.
But you get the option that if you don't like an HOA and you're not going to move into that neighborhood, the people who want an HOA get to live there.
Do you like them?
Personally, I don't.
You don't?
I don't like HOAs. No.
Why not?
I just don't. I think that it becomes cliquish and you don't have real leadership people in there. And so it just ends up being somebody on a power trip taking advantage, like, hey, your fence, it needs to be 12 foot tall and yours is 11 feet, 11 inches.
Yeah.
Here's a citation. That doesn't solve it. They just become somebody that's, you know what I mean? Acting bigger than they really are.
Why do you have this?
Yeah.
That's against the rules.
But if it was like the reason of this HOA is to keep property values high, and we will do things that keep property values high, sign on the dotted line, then anything that you do to keep property values high, then I was willing to go along with.
Yeah, and then it gets dicey too. I've lived in one neighborhood before that had an HOA, and at first I was like, well, I don't know. I see the ups and downs. There's nothing we really are doing, so it doesn't affect me until we went to sell our house. And there was a home on the street that was very unkept, very overgrown, very messy, just looked like an absolute eyesore. And we watched people come and go looking at our house and look at theirs and leave. And I was just like, now I want something said. Like, somebody better go to that house. And I would say, especially if you're going to make a big deal about so-and-so's above ground pool or so-and-so's garbage can or so-and-so's yard sign, then you better clean up that mess. Don't do one.
Well, and
that's
what I'm
other.
saying. Like, if it's actually you're paying money in exchange for a service, but if you paid car insurance and sometimes they just didn't cover your car if you got into an accident, right? The whole purpose that I was willing to part with money is to get this thing. If when it comes down to it, you don't even do that thing, you just call me and ask for more money and sell me more services. I'm like, hold up, there's a purpose for this thing.
Yeah.
I'm not buying it if you're not selling it. And so I think any HOA charter that does not come through should be immediately tossed out. Right. So if that house gets overgrown and there's an HOA, they're obviously not doing their job. Now there's not an HOA. In order to keep it, you have to actually do the thing that you're selling to the people who you're supposedly governing.
It's almost like our government is one giant HOA.
It is a terrible one at that.
Yeah. Take money.
Because, Bob down the street, right, he goes to their parties. And so when he causes a problem for the HOA, he's grandfathered in, right? He doesn't have to do it. But you new person that doesn't come to our parties, letter of the law, I can use it as a weapon to come after you. I can make you miserable because of the power that I have. I'm Charlie in accounting and I get bullied during the day. But when I go home in my neighborhood, I am the enforcer and I'm going to make you pay because you're not on my friends list. That's government in a nutshell.
It's all politics. Everything is politics. God, freaking everything. Yeah.
You got nothing more?
I'm trying to think. Listen, my brain is half asleep.
Why? Remind me, what did you do to yourself to make your brain asleep?
First of all, that was Friday. It is now Monday. I feel like I'm recovered. Well, all right. Mostly recovered.
Okay.
Why does it take so long when we're older? It takes so long when we're older to recover.
Okay, what's the process of how does your body process what you just gave to it? Okay, so if I decided to not do it, right,
Mhm.
not eat any sugars whatsoever, how long does it take for my body to completely unload all the sugars that are in my liver?
I don't know. How long?
Between 3 and 4 days.
What?
Between
3 and 4
Yeah,
days?
it'll completely empty out. When I stop eating, it'll still be providing glucose for my blood, right?
Yeah.
For about 3 to 4 days. So what you did Friday is still holding out and making you feel terrible many days. And
That explains a lot.
you threw off your body's chemistry, you killed off bacteria. Like your recovery is probably more like 30 days rather than 3 days.
30 days from one night of drinking.
If your gut, your stomach, and your intestines have bacteria that basically takes your food and metabolizes it and breaks it down and delivers its nutrients to the bloodstream, and then you drink a bunch of stuff that's toxic for that bacteria that's in there and wipes out the bacteria, so you have like none or damaged or whatever. Now you eat food with no bacteria to break it down. You don't think that you're going to be a little depleted in the nutrition side of things for a little while until you make good habits, right? And that bacteria grows. And then on day 31, now the next food you eat, you're back to where you were before you wiped out your gut bacteria. It's that your body is that sensitive to those kind of changes.
Not only what I put in it, but then screwed with the sleep. Not just because of the time change, but staying up later than normal, multiple days in a row, then getting up earlier than normal. So put crap in, screwed with the sleep. I didn't even get my workout in over the weekend. Like I went walking, but I didn't get my weights in.
You just made faulty choices from start to finish. Like if this was like, put on my calendar, I'm just going to make really destructive choices probably for the next, 3 days or so. Like you would not read that and say, oh, goody, let me go destroy myself a little bit.
It's awful. And like in your 20s, you'd be fine by Saturday night. If you did what I did Friday, you'd be fine Saturday night. You'd probably go out and do it again. 41, it's Monday, and I feel awful. And I'm just like, what? Why?
Do you want to know why? Was that a real question?
I sort of do, yeah.
So your body, when it's growing, releases a lot of chemicals for cell replication. I mean, your bones are growing, your brain is still being formed and whatever. So in your body, it's in not in repair mode, it's in build mode. Right. So when you do damage to it when you're a kid, you scrape your knee, like it was already replicating faster because it was still in HGH and growth mode.
Yeah.
But when you get older and you're done growing, you're not like really, the only thing it has to do is repair things. So it slows down quite a bit, and it's not in that mode where it's times 10 volume. It's like at 3 or 4 volume. It's only dealing with little destructive things that you do. You can get back there. There are tons of people who have biological age back in their 20s when they go into their 30s, but they have to change all of their behaviors, right? And give the chemicals that their body needs to continually keep growing like it did when they were young.
Are you pro taking HGH?
I don't like, I like supplements as fill-ins. Like, do I want you to get vitamin D from the sun, or do I want to get vitamin D from a pill?